Go. Sige.
So up next will be the video of Simon Sinek talking about the infinite game in one of his best speeches. And in this video, there's a lot of learning and takeaways. So go ahead and watch it, and then later we will talk about ano yung mga natutunan natin sa video na to. So go ahead, Zach, please play the video.
In game theory, there are two kinds of games. There are finite games and there are infinite games. A finite game is defined as known players, fixed rules, and an agreed upon objective. Baseball. We all agree what the rules are, and at the end of 9 innings, whoever has more runs, we declare the winner and the game is over. No one ever says, wait, if we can just play 3 more innings, I know we can come back and win. Doesn't happen, right? You have winners and you have losers, right? Then there's an infinite game. An infinite game is defined as known and unknown players. The rules are changeable, and the objective is to keep the game in play, to perpetuate the game. When you pit a finite player versus a finite player, the system is stable. Baseball is stable. When you pit an infinite player versus an infinite player, the system is also stable. The Cold War was stable because there can be no winners and losers. It doesn't exist. That's not a scenario we want. And so you keep the game in play to keep it stable. And in an infinite game, because there are no winners or losers, what happens is players drop out when they run out of the will or the resources to play. And then they're replaced by other players. The game perpetuates, the players change out. Problems arise when you pit a finite player versus an infinite player, because the finite player is playing to win, and the infinite player is playing to stay in the game. And the finite player will always get frustrated. They will find themselves in quagmire. This was the United States and Vietnam. We were fighting to win. They were fighting for their lives. This was the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. They were fighting to beat the Mujahideen. The Mujahideen would fight for as long as was necessary. Now, let's look at the game of business. The game of business is, by its very definition, an infinite game. It has pre-existed before every single company on this planet ever existed, and it will outlast every single company on this planet. But if you listen to the words of most companies, they don't know the game they're in. You listen to companies, they want to be number 1. Based on what metrics? Based on what time frames? Revenues? Market share? Square footage? Number of employees? Based on a quarter, a year? 5 years, 10 years, 50 years? I didn't agree to those standards. You can't suddenly just arbitrarily say we're number 1. No one else agreed to the standards. It's nonsense to beat our competition. Based on what? And they study their competition, trying to outdo their competition. And yet I've never heard of a company that's taken down by the competitors they know. They're always taken down by the competitors they don't know. Do you think MySpace knew that Facebook existed? They were worried about Friendster. You can't make strategic decisions from studying your competition. You can make tactical decisions from studying your competition, but not strategic decisions. But when you listen to the way most companies play the game, they're in the wrong game. That's why they get frustrated. The great organizations understand that they're playing to stay in the game. Jim Senegal, the founder of Costco, says Wall Street's in the business of making the quarter of the year. We're in the business of building a company for the next 50 years. The understanding of knowing what game you're in radically changes the kinds of decisions you make and the way you see the world. It is also tremendously confidence building. Let me give you a true story. I spoke at a education, that's funny. I spoke at an education summit for Microsoft. I also spoke at an education summit for Apple. At the Education Summit for Microsoft, I would say that 70% of the executives spent about 70% of their presentations talking about how to beat Apple. At the Apple Education Summit, 100% of the executives spent 100% of their presentations talking about how to help teachers teach and how to help students learn. One is playing this way, and one is playing that way. One is playing finite, and the other one is playing infinite. Guess which one gets frustrated. So at the end of my talk at Microsoft, they gave me a gift. They gave me the new Zune when it was a thing. And let me tell you, this thing was spectacular. It was the most elegant piece of technology I'd ever used. The user interface was incredible. The design was spectacular. I absolutely loved it. It was easy to use, and it was bright and gorgeous and fantastic. It didn't work on iTunes, which is a different problem, so I couldn't use it, but it was amazing. And elegant. My God, it was elegant. So I'm sitting in the back of a taxi with a very senior Apple executive, sort of employee number 12 kind of guy. And, you know, I like to stir pots. So I turned to him, I said, you know, Microsoft gave me their new Zune, and it is so much better than your iPod Touch. And he turned to me and he said, I have no doubt. Conversation over. Because the infinite player understands sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. Sometimes your product is better and sometimes it's worse. The goal isn't to be the best every day. The goal isn't to outdo your competition every day. That's a finite construction. If I had said to Microsoft, I've got the new iPod Touch and it's so much better than your Zune, they would have said, can we see it? What does it do? React, 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 react. Finite players play to beat the people around them. Infinite players play to be better than themselves. To wake up every single day and say, how can we make our company a better version of itself today than it was yesterday? How can we create a product this week that's better than the product we created last week? We also have to play the infinite game. It's not about being ranked number one. It's not about having more followers on Twitter than your friends. It's not about outdoing anyone. It's about how to outdo yourself. It's not about selling more books or getting more TED views than somebody else. It's about how to make sure that the work that you're producing is better than the work you produced before. You are your competition. And that is what ensures you stay in the game the longest. And that is what ensures you find joy. Because the joy comes not from comparison, but from advancement. The problem is, we're human beings, and we love to compare. We love a ranking. Oh, we love a ranking. Top 10 this, top 100 that. Oh, we love a ranking. You know? Every industry has got its own rankings, and we love to be on those rankings, even though most of the rankings are arbitrary, and you can pretty much foil most of them. You can buy your way onto most of them, right? But I'm on the list, right? They did a study, who do all the studies, they did a study where they asked people if they wanted a free $400,000 house on a block where all the other houses are $100,000, or a free $1 million house on a block where all the other houses are $4 million. Most people took the $400,000 house. We just love to be better than each other. But that is a depressing way to live a life. What I urge you to do, if you are not a millennial, is to have a little empathy for the millennials around you. They were dealt a bad hand, and unfortunately, we have to help them build their confidence, find their patience, and break the habit from their technology so that they can learn the social skills that they need to live happy, joyful lives. If you are a millennial, it's not you. And take care of the millennial friends that you have around you, because they're not mad at you and they're not bad people. They were dealt the same bad hand that you were dealt. Don't demand that they take care of you, take care of them. And that's part of the problem. There's an entire section in the bookshop called self-help, and there's no section in the bookshop called help others. And the way that we fix the problems in the world is not by trying to demand that people help us. How can I lose 10 pounds? How can I find love? How can I find the job of my dreams? That's what all the books say. No, it should be, how can I help my friend live a healthy lifestyle? How can I help my friend find a lifetime of fulfillment? That's what it's about. It's about service to others, because that's what it means to be human. Everything about our makeup, our biology and our anthropology is designed to get us to look after each other. Everything about our makeup is designed to get us to take care of each other. That's why an event like this feels better than watching it online. Because we get to sit next to each other. We get to sit with each other. It's nicer for me too. It's much nicer for me to be here with you because we're social. But we all have a responsibility in this tribe. If you want to have a happy, successful, fulfilling, confident life, you have to commit yourself to take care of the people around you. That's just how it works.
Okay, take a deep breath. Natin si Simon Sinek, take a deep breath. Ang ganda ng talk, no? That's one of the great talks I've heard. It encompasses it all. No, hindi lang siya, even the millennials and the non-millennials, in-handle niya, ganon. So, and because of this talk, I really searched for more videos talking about this concept. And with that, I would like to send you into your breakout room, just probably 8 minutes. Talk about yourselves. What did you get about that video? What did you like? And then let's go back here in the main session, and then we will be sharing with one another as well with the concepts, right? So with that, go ahead and I'll be sending you to your breakout. Ayan, welcome back. Can you share now ano yung napagkwentuhan nyo or ano yung mga biggest takeaways nyo with that video? And in your group, no? Kasi kami dito marami kami napagkwentuhan. Go ahead. Pwede na mauna. Wag kayo mahiya. Leaders nahihiya. Ayan.
Hi guys.
Ayan, sige, go.
So, very I'll just share my own, no? Pero maganda kasi yung share yung Jet kanina. I'll just let him share later. But, yung sa akin, biggest realization ko, as a leader, sinabi kasi ni Simon Sinek, it's more of, joy comes not in comparison, but in advancement, right? When we ourselves are better human beings today versus yesterday, we find joy, and therefore, we want to stay in whatever business we're in. So, that's one aspect of it. But the thing that I thought of was, as a leader, hindi ba ganun din yung nagbibigay sa atin ng joy? At least for me. Like when an advisor or an employee of ours or a leader of ours says, thank you because nagbago yung buhay ko dahil sa'yo. Right? Or thank you because tumaas yung kita ko dahil sa'yo. Or natulungan mo akong, ma-treat yung family ko to something because of my growth. Mas fulfilling yun for me versus yung nakakuha sila ng accolades and awards and naging number 1. Still very good, no? Maging number 1 sila and accolades. Still very proud. Pero for me personally, parang mas malalim sa puso yung nag-change yung life nila. And, they are creating results for themselves for the better. So, yun yung realization ko. I think if I attach myself more to the growth of the people under my care, my advisors, the employees namin and all, if I'm attached to the growth rather than the results that they'll create, mas fulfilled ako as a leader and I want to continue to be a leader and continue to support them. Right? So, yun. That's my realization.
Thank you, Zach. Wala pa natin si Zach. Ayan. Ang ganda nun na yun nga. I really like that. Naalala ko tuloy yung sinasabi ni Miss A na beat your best. Diba? Yun yung goal lang. Ma-beat mo lang yung best mo. Kasi sometimes, it's hard to compete with the top agad, dahil na kung bago. So parang kapag gano'n na nangyayari, parang hindi na ako na-appreciate or hindi ko ma-appreciate sa sarili ko. Miski luma ka, di ba?
Bigyan nag-COT yung isa.
Oo, di ba? Kaya nga.
Kung nakikipaglaban ka, di ba?
Oo, hindi gano'n eh. So, kaya tama gano'n. We're playing in an infinite game. Ako, one thing that I like with what Zach is saying is yun nga. Kumbaga, yun yung goal natin. Let's just make our advisors better than last year, better than last month. Na parang ganun lang eh. One step at a time. Pag alam mo nag-grow ka, joy, yun nga yung meron doon. So sige, thank you, Zach. Who else would like to share? Ideally, lahat makapag-share na, no? Kasi conversation, ilan lang naman tayo rito. Sige.
Mina.
Game. Ayan.
Ako parang naisip ko lang yung nagsalita yung boyfriend ko, si Simon Sinek, no? Yung parang don't beat others, no? Lagi sa akin sinasabi ni Ma'am Nina yan before na parang feeling ko kasi na parang kina-cardiac arrest na ako pag kumpara ng mga numbers and tinitingnan ko yung iba. Bakit sila ganun? Bakit ganun? Bakit nakakaya niya? So, pwedeng maging healthy competition pero sa akin minsan parang hindi na siya healthy kasi hindi na ako nakakatulog. Diba? Parang sabi ko, tama pa ba to? So parang na-realize ko na yung sinabi ni Simon kanina na oo nga, infinite game talaga na dapat beat yourself na lang. Gawin mo yung best mo para sa sarili mo. Yung ganun. Para at least mag-grow ka ng mag-grow. And ikukumpara mo I mean, mag-grow ka versus last year or mag-improve ka versus dun sa mga na-hit mo, i-improve mo pa.
Thank you, Karine. Palapakan natin si Karine. One more sharing from the Zoom. Yeah, and then I'll get probably 1 or 2 here as well. Go.
Ako naman. Si Kabayan tumatawa, oh. Yan. Ako naman yung biggest takeaway ko dun from the video na shinare ko kanina. It's di ba yung sa infinite game, we are dealt with different cards. So yun yung mga circumstances na nangyayari today or sa buhay natin. Pero kung ano man yung mga circumstances na yon, it's up to us on how we can help or add value to other people, not how they can help us. Yun yung sa latter part ng video kanina ni Simon. Na yun na nga yung parang doon na tayo parang mag-grow pa as a person during that time na down tayo, which is down ka tapos ikaw pa yung tumulong sa iba. 'Di ba? So, ang ganda rin nung mindset nung pagkaka-deliver din ni Simon na nag-start din talaga siya sa mindset na of us continuously adding value to people, hindi yung kung ano yung makukuha natin from that situation or other people.
I like
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you, Christine. Palapakan si Christine. It's like the giver-taker concept, no? Na in this world, either you're always a giver or you're a taker. So always, kumbaga, live a life that you're giving, di ba? Kasi nga, lalo na tayo, we're in the service industry. We're in the service business. Like when we have an advisor, the goal is to help these people, to help our clients. Thank you. How about someone here, Miss Nina, Miss Rohel, who wants to share?
Hindi kita narinig.
Oh, sige, ikaw, bro.
Yeah, actually yung sinay ko lang kanina is really yung realization ko, observation ko. Unang na-share niya sa atin dito is parang may handling objection kanina. Yung sinasabi niya, yung Zoom version nitong ganitong company is better than this one. And he said right away, tama ka. Tapos ng conversation dun eh. Ngayon kung kinontra mo, mas maganda sa hahabang conversation yun. So, being a seller, naisip ko, the best way talaga to counter an objection is to agree right away. Pero may kadugtong however, doon I hate it. And the other realization that I had is that sabi ko, itong competition will eat us up. That's why when I was given the opportunity to speak to a crowd in SMX, about 1,400 of them, I mentioned it, nalugan ng Mrs. Nina. Sabi ko, nobody will ever beat me in this industry. Tahimik sila lahat. And even Ana, hindi niya alam na gano'n sasabihin ko eh. Sabi ko, malabo po ba? Ulitin ko, nobody will ever beat me in this industry. Why did I say so? Because nobody is gonna beat somebody who's not competing with you. I'm not there to compete with anyone. Alam ko yung, sabi ko, sobrang daming magagaling. Talagang mga ngalay lang ako sa kakahabol sa kanila. Ano mangyayari niyan? So nangyayari nga lang, may COT na kagad. Paano na lang yun? Alikabok na naman ang kinain natin dito. But I'm excited seeing them achieving that kind of thing because it happened to them, it can happen to any one of us.
Thank you. Palapan natin si Bro Rohel. Yan. So actually may explore pa natin yan, yung competition versus rival. Kasi there are 5 points dito sa infinite game and one of that is have a worthy rival, not a competition. Kasi kay rival, we get inspired eh. Di ba? Parang, ako naman manalo this month. Next month, ikaw naman parang ganon. Kasi it's also good eh. Kasi di ba, lagi nyo tatandaan, one thing lang that I want you to avoid na, infinite game naman to, okay lang na wala akong production this month. Hindi rin ganon. Di ba? It's about, I will do my best, I will better myself than yesterday, than last month. Pero kahit mas mataas siya sa akin, okay lang. Because
beating your best and beating yourself.
Tama yun. Reach your best, not yourself. Tama. Ang ganda nun. No? So, and ako ang biggest learning ko with that video yun talagang Apple versus Microsoft. Eh. Di ba? Ang maganda rito that infinite players understand that sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind. Sometimes you're number one, sometimes you're not. And that's okay. But because the goal is to improve your product, improve your service, improve your organization. And for me, moving forward, I want Starbright to be like that. Diba? Like we get inspired by Wealth Giver. We get inspired by sila Reagan o sila Jerome. Diba? And even invite them. Kanina kausap ko din sila Wealth Giver. And it's about inspiration. Diba? Also, Reg is sharing kanina that ang concept ni Miss A is we just need to do the right thing. Yung pagiging number one naman kasi is, it's just a result. Kaya moving forward, we will stop using we are number one even in the hashtag. Kasi it's not where we want to go. No, it's just a transition message to make sure to show also the existing top producers that we are still here. Na wala nagbago. But moving forward, naka 1 year na rin naman ako as the agency manager. Now this is Starbright 2.0 talaga. We're now transitioning. Zach, do you want to say anything? You want to share anything?
Yeah, something that I want to bring up na sinabi ni Simon is yung play to stay in the game, right? And as leaders and as an organization, Starbright, and even as financial advisors, I think if people have that mindset, adopt that mindset, na I'm playing to stay in the game, talagang we're gonna create the results. If you add playing to stay in the game, number one, and consistent growth, okay, number two, then you'll get the results that you want eventually, right? And I remember yung mga sobrang yaman sa yung mga sobrang yaman sa industry natin, and yung mga sobrang successful, and yung mga sobrang laki ng impact to the lives of many people are those that stayed for so long, right? Are those that have been here for 20, 30 years. And so the goal shouldn't necessarily be finite lang na I just want to achieve these milestones and that's it. But rather, how can I make myself sustainable and I want to stay here for the rest of my life? That's really the mindset, right? Nice. And I think if we help our advisors adopt that mindset, mas konti ang magbo-burnout because they see the bigger picture, right? That these finite results are just milestones, yes, but the bigger picture is staying in the game, because the longer we stay in the game, the more results we can create in our lives, the more impact we can make in the lives of others, right?
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
Sorry. So thank you, Zach, for that. And that's where Starbright is moving forward. That's why yun nga, we are dropping the we are number one because again, this is Starbright 2.0, that's one. It surely is just creating stress for some people. And then number two, now we will be transitioning into what Zach is mentioning, that we should have an MTP or the massive transformative purpose. Unti-unti within this year, we have to create that vision, that communication, that when we communicate to everyone, kasama ako doon. No, kasama ako dun sa purpose na yon. Just like the vision of NASA during that time, that the massive transformative purpose is to put a man in the moon. And even when you ask the janitor, his job is to help put a man in the moon. Dapat ganun eh. So the staff buys into it, the new recruits buys into it. We have to create an MTP, right? Actually bigger than the vision of 100 mission-driven millionaires. Now, moving forward, we'll be creating that. We will not drop the 100 mission-driven millionaires because it's part of it, right? But what's bigger than that? We have to create something na kahit bago pa lang ako, I would want to be part of it, right? So let's go to the second video. And this second video is a bit longer, about 15 minutes. But I think he will go through the 5 principles of an infinite game. And then this also covers why most leaders fail, why most organizations fail, and what most leaders fail to do. So knowing that and understanding that, we'll be able to avoid it and transition into a bigger and more unstoppable force moving forward. So go ahead, Zach. Please share the video.
Tell me about the infinite game.
Yeah.
And what are the issues that you had that led to the wisdom in the infinite game?
So I'm an idealist. I'm an optimist, and the problem is I live in a world. We all live in a world in which the overwhelming pressures are on us to make the numbers, hit the target. You know, whatever it is. It's all very finite, and it feels wrong to me, but I can't tell you why. You know, it just doesn't like. How can I tell that person that that's wrong, that there's another way of seeing the world when that's the way the world works? You know, almost all business is based on quarterly annual results. You know, we hit targets. We most people are incentivized based on if you hit your numbers by a certain date. You know, neglecting the fact that both those targets and those dates are arbitrary. You know, somebody picked a number, and usually it's 1 year because that's when we pay taxes. Like, that's pretty much it. And it was I tripped over this idea, like I trip over all my ideas. There's a James Carsey, who's an NYU theologian, retired now. He wrote a little book in 1986 called Finite and Infinite Games, and it proposed that there are these two types of games: finite games and infinite games. A finite game is defined as known players, fixed rules, and agreed upon objectives. Baseball, and the purpose is to win, right? Then you have infinite games, which are defined as known and unknown players. The rules are changeable, and the objective is to perpetuate the game and to stay in it as long as possible. And so we are all unwitting players in infinite games. So for example, there's no such thing as being number one in marriage. There's no such thing as being the winner in friendship. You know, there's no such thing as winning national politics, and there's no such thing as winning education or winning your career, and there's definitely no such thing as winning business, right? I'm the winner of business. Like, it doesn't exist because there's no end, right? There is no finish line. But if we listen to the language of most leaders, they talk about being the best, being number one, and beating their competition. There's no agreed upon metrics, and there's no agreed upon timeframes. So it's not true. And so I realized that if infinite games exist, and we're unwitting players in infinite games, but we're leading as if we're finite players, as if we're in finite games, then we needed a new set of directions to guide us on how to lead in the infinite game, how to lead in the infinite game of business. And the book Infinite Game really challenges many of the accepted notions of how business works today. You know, it really is an indictment of American and Western business, American in particular, of Western business philosophies, which were pretty much honed in the 80s and 90s. So if you consider that the concept of shareholder supremacy was a theory proposed in the late 1970s, popularized in the 80s and 90s, now it's standard fare, right? When you hear CEOs talk about prioritizing the shareholder. That was just a theory in the late 1970s, and it was popularized during the boom years of the 80s and 90s of a time of relative peace, you know? And now it's no longer boom years, and these are no longer relative peace. These are different times, and yet the theories haven't adapted. The concept of using mass layoffs to balance the books. Think about that for a second. We are going to use the livelihoods of our people in order to meet arbitrary projections for an arbitrary date. As opposed to, we're still profitable, we just want to be more profitable. And in so doing, destroy our culture, destroy trust, and destroy cooperation. And then companies are flabbergasted why they can't hold on to employees, why discretionary effort is declining, why, you know, they blame millennials. Millennials, you know, aren't loyal. No, that's not true at all. Millennials are growing up in a world in which companies offer no loyalty. That is not a meritocracy. It doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how good a teammate you are. That if the company misses its arbitrary projections on the arbitrary date, you're out. I look back and I realize, oh my God, we got so much wrong in the 80s and 90s. Milton Friedman was a Nobel Prize-winning economist who offered us what is considered the definition of the responsibility of business today, which is he proposed that the responsibility of business is to maximize profit within the bounds of the law. What about ethics, right? That's the equivalent of me being in a long-term relationship, right? And I cheat on my girlfriend, and when she finds out and confronts me with it, I say to her, you can't be upset with me because I broke no laws. Which would be true, by the way. Yeah. It's not like marriage where there's a contract. Like, there's actually no law governing this relationship, right? So when companies do very unethical things that make us uncomfortable, we all know it's gross. And then we put them in front of Congress and they testify, all the CEOs say the same thing. We acted within the bounds of the law. That is a very low standard, right? But these are the standards. And shareholder supremacy and the shorter and shorter term goals we set, and mass layoffs and rank and yank and all these stupid ideas that came from the 80s and 90s, which were fine for the 80s and 90s, are really doing more damage to American businesses than in the past. And so this book really attempts to challenge the finite thinking that governs most businesses and offer a new perspective.
What does working at a company where a leader has an understanding that there are in an infinite game, the whole organization understands that this is an infinite game, what does that look like?
If a company, there's a sense being best, I would call it adherence to the cause, be the best, or we are the best. For now, based on the metrics you chose, based, you can write it any you want. You'll find that there's a sense of cause. People are willing to sacrifice down, for example, a better paying job. It feeds my soul. It makes me feel like my life has value. Find just causes at the center of it. You'll find a vastly greater concentration of trust. That there are trusting teams, that people are willing to say, I made a mistake, or to help them solve the problem of being afraid that if they say anything that they'll find themselves in a short financial year. And without trusting teams, we hide our mistakes. We never admit that we don't know what we're doing. We get promoted or for help or say I hide and fake every day. Eventually, inside the company, and wouldn't we want to work there? They also made the very clever competitors, right? And the obsession is too much again on the finite, right? A rival is someone whose strengths reveals to you your own weaknesses. So to see those in your industry and admire where they are better than you, instead of trying to beat them, you look at where improve. It's constant improvement, right? And that's a very sophisticated idea to not see those in your industry as competitors to be beaten, but rather as rivals that will reveal to us our weaknesses. That we tough mindset to all of this stuff is tough. Everything about running an infinite organization and being an infinite leader is difficult. It's so much easier. It's laid out. It's you can it. The infinite is sometimes more ethereal. Now there are all, when has on a client, which is, I could know what I'm trying to achieve. This is the wrong client to help that. I only win the just cause of the infinite game. And so everything takes a difficult, and it is much easier to focus game. It's much more stressful to be in the finite game. The infinite game is inspiring, but if it were easy, our economy and most of our incentive towards packages and companies are not geared around the infinite game at all. And so there's no pressure to play the infinite game. quite the opposite. All the pressure is to play the finite game. So it's incredibly difficult. But my God, when you get it right, innovation skyrockets, trust skyrockets, cooperation skyrockets, the ability to adapt to in technology skyrockets. I mean, here's some examples of finite industries that are embarrassing, right? So the Amazon. The movie industry, it's the car companies didn't come up with Tesla. Like an upstart is taken on they're so preoccupied with the existing business models and protecting what they have. You know, like they saw their model. Even though streaming wasn't quality there yet, they knew it was coming, and the CEO said to the board that we really need to change our business model, and the board would not allow him to do so because the revenues from late fees. You'll lose all that revenue, and now they're bankrupt. That's called finite thinking. With their quo, because they have benefited from the status quo. That they literally will not to stay in business, and so now you have publishing should have invented. You have movie industry that's struggling to figure out how to keep. You know, why isn't it that the architecture firms and property companies didn't come up with WeWork? They were so busy making their own offices that they thought it was. You know, and so all of these companies, all of these industries are being disrupted by people. That's an indictment on the way in which they view their businesses. Much more adaptable, infinite bend and weave with changes in technology and see the writing on the wall. And the ones that have done jobs could tell the. Of course, he had a just cause. He was leading an infinite organization. He was an infinite leader. And he was able to see that investing in the graphic user interface was the right way to go, direction they were going in at the time. And that idea, that big platform of Windows is designed to act like a Macintosh. So that was a huge idea. Kodak couldn't make the existential flex. Kodak invented the digital camera in 1975, but couldn't bear the thought of changing their company away from film and chemicals and machines to embrace this digital technology. Of course, you know, digital became a thing somewhere else because once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back. And Kodak made a ton of money from selling their patents, from the royalties they got from their patents on digital technology. And when those patents ran out, about 2 or 3 years later, they went bankrupt. That's called finite thinking.
If I'm a leader at an organization which is finite, it's tough to just say, all right, I'm going to lead like an infinite leader now. I'm going to make my organization an infinite organization. Are there sort of practical steps that one can go through as opposed to just saying, like, think differently?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah. This is where James Carsey articulated this original concept of the finite and infinite. And what I hope to do is take his basic premise, which is a perspective of the world, and offer steps in which we can actually take to lead within this infinite world. So having a just cause, having trusting teams, having a worthy rival, the ability to make an existential flex, and then ultimately having the courage to lead are the essential 5 steps that have to be taken in order to lead. And if you leave any of those out, you run the risk of sliding back into the finite game.
How has it been for you?
Like, oh, good, we do this. And team, like when they get the ideas, they come and internalize them. But our company of constant improvement, best, but we're trying to be better every day. The fact that we're on a journey of advancing our movement, advancing our cause, and that is a cause, and looking for. So I the concept has given me the to understand realism. This is actually the way the world works. World, like I said, we are unwitting, and we don't get to choose whether you obey gravity. It's a force. It's not rules of the game. We don't get to change. Like I said, it's more like a force that we have to. Those who accept the force, you can build air, you can flap your arms when you jump off a cliff, and it'll feel amazing.
Well, I'll choose the former. Speaking with you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Alright.
Okay. Napanood niyo ba yung buong video? Medyo mabagal kami rito eh, pero type in the chat box nga if napanood niyo yung buong video. Because I'll be sending you into your breakout rooms for 15 minutes and then share what are your learnings in that video. Baka hindi nila ako narinig or hindi natin sila narinig. Ayan. So sige, wait lang. Napanood naman mo. Okay, so that's good. Sige, I'll be sending you into your breakout. Right? And then just share there. And then pagbalik nyo, I'll be reconnecting in a different internet connection. Sige. Yeah, so welcome to our plenary session. So can anyone share what did you get from that 16-minute video by Simon Sinek talking about the 5 steps and basically the whole concept of the infinite game? Sige. Ginugulo daw yung buhay natin, sabi ni Simon. Sabi ni Rohel. Yun daw yung take away niya kay Simon Sinek. Go.
Volunteer Gerald. Diba, Zach?
Hello! Sige. So, yun, ang ganda ng conversation namin ni Zach and team. So, yun nga. Nabanggit din ni Zach yung mga 5 practical steps na kanina. So, maybe he can also share it later. Siguro yung yun lang. We always have to adapt to change. Kasi nga, we need to have a constant improvement. Napapag-usapan nga, na-maintain yung status ko. So, parang nandun na lang tayo sa level na yun. So, we need to, to improve. In a way, sabi ko nga for our team to improve, it starts from a small team. So, dapat doon talaga mag-start yung then go up. So, may ripple effect. So, ayun. We are not the best, but we are improving every day. Yun yung nakuha ko na quotes from Simon Sinek. So, ayun. Then isa lang doon yung about sa having a rival that inspires us. So, napag-usapan nga namin when Wealth Giver came in sa AIA, we are still grateful kasi dito sila nag-join. Pwede naman sila mag-join sa ibang company, but then they join our company and tayo rin mismo benefit from it. So since nandito na sila, it's easy for us to know what are their best practices, easy. So yun yung napapag-usapan namin.
Thank you, Gerald. Wala pa natin si Gerald. Ayan, ang ganda ng mga learning. No? So, tama that we have to constantly improve on ourselves and kumbaga do not think of the other teams as competitors but rivals talaga para ma-inspire tayo sa kanila. Thank you. Who else wants to share? Yung hindi naman nag-share kanina. So si ano yan, si Kabayan tsaka si Argel. Go.
Mag-share na ako. Para ako na lang yung ayun, so ang dami namang input na kay Miss Ka and kay Don Ramon. And agree din ako doon kay Je. Siguro kung meron man a realization and nag-stick doon sa kay Simon, yun yung yung continuous na improve and enhance yung yung sarili. Oh. Kasi kumbaga the more na ini-improve ko yung sarili ko, mas magtatagal ako sa industry. Yung parang ganon. Kasi andun yung lalo na kapag kasi the more na ini-engage ko yung sarili ko, mas lumalalim yung mission and yung cause natin na hindi pwedeng mag-give up dahil kumbaga ang dami ko nang na-invest yung mga ganun, 'di ba? Hindi pa pwedeng bumigay and sumuko agad. And yung pag din, yung nabanggit ko nga kanina kanina sa sharing namin na parang as a leader, normal na, lalo sa panahon ngayon na parang may times na madadown dahil lahat naman mababa. Pero ang lagi kong sinasabi sa dalawa pa lang yung na kung dati nga ako, kung paano ako nagsimula, hindi ko naramdaman na give up ako ng ng leader ko. So kumbaga, yun yung gusto kong maramdaman nila na ako sa leader. Hindi dapat nila maramdaman na ako mismo na panghinaan sa kanila. Kasi the more na maramdaman nila yung sa akin, mas lalo silang baka mawala lalo dahil ako sa leader, kumbaga, hindi na nagtitiwala sa kanila na hindi nila kaya. Kumbaga, andun yung continuous ko na kailangan communication talaga sa kanila, na in-check, lalo sa mga activities natin, para mas lalo silang tumagal. Kasi yun yung nakakatakot kapag hindi na nagpaparamdam. Magugulat na lang tayo, wala na. So, kailangan talaga yung, as a leader, ako, lagi kong nire-remind yung sarili ko na kung paano ko sila matutulungan pa na mag-improve. Kasi kung mag-grow sila, mag-grow din ako. So yun.
Thank you Don Ronald. Actually, what I got from you is, kasi kanina rin napagkukwentuhan namin nila Miss Nina, paano mo to parang to ikakaskade sa buong organization o sa buong team. And I think one way is to also make them watch the video so that they get the concept. And another thing, hindi siya another way, but one more thing that you can do is to also master the concept. Kasi by constantly practicing and living by it, and then watching and re-listening and reading the book, etc. Kasi the more you understand it, the more na magiging ganun ka eh. Like you'll be kinder to people. Di ba parang gano'n, no? You will not judge the millennials or whoever, hindi lang man millennials. Magiging understanding ka, gano'n. And then of course sila rin. Kasi the reason why they drop out, sabi nga ni Simon Sinek sa unang video, no? People drop out because they don't understand that they are playing an infinite game. Yun eh. So when you understand that you're playing an infinite game, you will not be dropping out because it doesn't end. Bakit ka mag-drop out in a game that doesn't end? Ganon. So we should be able to cascade this with our team as fast as we can. Ayun. So may sagot si RJ. Ang question is how to incentivize reward someone with an infinite game plan. Sige, later daw sasagutin ni Zach. Ayun. So sige. Dito naman, Miss Nina, ayun nga, I like you to share yung realization mo na paano yung dun sa how do we live with the company or the culture that we have in this company. Sige nga, can you raise that?
Sabi ko kanina, kasi di ba, syempre, kasi kanina we had a meeting with the president of AIA. Bumalik na naman sa Return of the King. So, we would want to be number 1 again. And it is paulit-ulit. Sabi ko, paano natin yun na naman? Ang hirap kasi kahit na tayo, na-indoctrinate na natin yung tayo at yung tao natin. Tapos paglabas sila, kami yung maririnig na sa AIA. That's gonna be a challenge really because, of course, naisip ko rin, the same way, na-apply ko lang, this is still an infinite game for us.
Yeah.
We just have to continue doing this until makuha ng lahat ng papasok.
Yeah.
Just be patient.
Tama.
Sinagot ka rin yung tanong ko. Patience is a virtue.
Tama.
Sorry, ako yung impatient pala.
Yun, na-realize. Ayun.
Pero, if I may,
Sige.
yung ating return of the king is something na i-propagate ng ating company. That is their thing. Wala tayong magawa. Pero ang iniisip ko dito, whether we like it or not, we are in a competition all the time. Kasi ito yung business eh.
Yeah.
Pero, if the mindset is an infinite approach na pinag-uusapan na natin dito, wala ka na naman titignan competition. You will just be so high up there, assuming these people na nandito sa industry will not have the same mindset as yung sinasabi ni Boss Rex before na yung swimming competition na tuyo ng buhok mo, wala pa yung mga kalaban mo, di ba? Nandun pa rin sa tubig. Ganun kalayo ang gap mo because the mindset is so beautiful na you don't look at your competition anymore.
Yeah.
Kung ganun na, we wanna grow, kasi businessman naman tayo, and growing doesn't mean beating you, but growing against what I had before.
Tama.
So if that kind of mindset is embedded in us, wala talagang competition pinag-uusapan.
Tama yun.
Di ba?
So yun nga, I like it. Thank you for sharing that, bro and Miss Nina. What I mentioned there is, first of all, we have to understand and embrace that it will always be present. Di ba? Yung ganong culture and in the organization, we cannot not work or not transition, not pivot just because. Di ba? May ganon tayong iniisip na ganito pa rin yung company, no? And another thing is, it's always given eh. Yun nga, having a finite goal is also important. That's one thing that we also need to understand. Kasi nga, we cannot also be laggards. Okay lang yan, wala akong production ngayon kasi infinite game naman eh. Hindi rin, I don't want the people in our organization to interpret it that way. Hindi kasi siya ganun, ha? Diba? Ang sinasabi lang niya is huwag ka ma-stress. Huwag ka ma-stress, do not compare, pero still beat your best, not beat yourself, but beat your best to the previous thing. Yun yung goal eh. So para lang hindi ma-misinterpret na okay lang yan na hindi ako nagpe-perform. Actually, ako personally, that's where I'm checking myself on. Kasi yun yung laging feedback ni Miss A sa akin na masyado akong relax, ganyan. So baka I'm putting a lid to the potential of the team. Eh. No, so that's why actually last year, I embraced the we are number one. Kasi para ma-feel ng top na palaban din ako, no? Number one din. Pero ngayon, I'm now sharing back na I'm an infinite player. Eh. Di ba? Ang goal ko lang mag-grow and kasi naliniwala ako dun sa magiging explosion niya in between, no? Na i-share ni Zach in a while. No? Meron siyang pakitang framework. No? So, that's the goal. No? Yun yung isang bagay na gusto ko talagang i-mention lang sa inyo na yes, we're in an infinite game, pero hindi din naman pwedeng sobrang bagal. Hindi pa pwedeng ganon kasi you're also in a game kasi with your family. Di ba? Nag-MDRT ako ngayon, hindi ka naman pwedeng sabihin, tigil na ako. Paano yung family mo? Yung expenses mo, hindi naman titigil eh. Di ba?
In fact, yung kikitain mo sa MDRT, hindi naman talaga yung sakto para sa pangarap sa pamilya.
Tama yun. So, ganon. So, ang sinasabi lang is, do not compete with others and do not stress yourself with rankings. Yun lang yun eh. And that's where I want Starbright to embrace ourselves so that we can pivot into 2.0. So Zach, can you also share? Yun kasi may tanong si Arjel, so you can also share your answer with that. And of course, yung pinag-usapan natin na a wonderful framework, no, that we can talk about in relation to the second video. Go ahead.
Sure, thanks DJ. Just want to share also my own takeaways, no, and own learnings dito. Kasi ang ganda ng video. And to add on to what DJ mentioned, I agree that it's not just because infinite game tayo, relax na tayo. The key is balance, right? At the end of the day, ang sabi ng one of my online mentors, ang sabi niya is there has to be balance between hustle. Hustle is Work, trabaho. Hustle and surrender. Kailangan in balance yan. Surrender is, bahala ka na Lord. Right? So there has to be a balance between the two. Pag sobrang surrender lang, tapos wala kang hustle, wala kang results. Yes, you're playing the infinite game, pero konti yung results mo. Right? Pag hustle naman, sobrang nakuha mo yung results. Yes, short term. However, it can lead to burnout. So it's a balance between hustle and surrender. And I think that's the mindset that we want to be able to adopt as an organization. And I'm very excited to talk about this because this is also what I want to inculcate in my own organizations, in my family businesses, because they're very traditional organizations. And I want to start to inculcate these ideas because it's about exponential growth and exponential organizations, right? So in a moment, I'm going to be sharing the framework that DJ was mentioning, but I do want to catch what notes away, what Simon said. And I want you guys to ask this. Listen to this, guys. So, ang natutunan ko dito is obsession with protecting the status quo leads organizations to their downfall. Yung example kanina was with Blockbuster, di ba? They were so focused on maintaining the status quo, the current way they were doing business, na hindi nila na-realize, nag-change na pala yung times, iba na yung gusto ng market, or kailangan na pala mag-adapt. And so, nawala sila. Right? And the reality is when I focus on just maintaining, when people focus on just maintaining the status quo, it means that's my focus. And therefore, I'm not focused on growing myself. I'm focused on maintaining. Right? If we're maintaining the status quo lang, wala rin mangyayari because in reality, in business, there is no maintaining. It's either you grow or you die. Right? So maintaining is actually an illusion. Maintain ko yung status quo namin. And by doing that, we actually die. Right? So a question that I want to ask everyone that you can ask yourselves as reflection, no? What status quo am I holding on to that may not serve me in the future? I'll ask that again. Please write that down. What status quo am I holding on to in my personal leadership, in my personal life that may not serve me in the future? Right? Because the key is adapting to the times and embracing that change. Right? I also wrote down the 5 steps, yung 5 practical steps ni Simon Sinek. Nakuha niyo ba kanina yon? Did you get the 5 practical steps on how to implement? Yes naman? Okay, sige. So,
Not all.
Not all. Sige. So please write this down if you can. Here are the 5 practical steps to plugging in the infinite game mindset in an organization. Number 1, have a just cause. Have a just cause. Ito yung sinasabi ni Simon na, di ba close na kami ni Simon? Ito yung sinasabi ni Simon na it's a cause that inspires people in the organization. It's the reason kahit may mag-offer ng mas malaking salary or compensation sa ibang organization, hindi sila lilipat because they're aligned with the cause. And ito yung sinasabi ni DJ kanina na massive transformative purpose or MTP. Okay? Number 2, trusting teams. So the question here is, do you as the leader trust the people in your team? And do you feel that your team trusts you as the leader? And do you feel like they trust themselves? They trust each other, right? Because that's the second step, right? Ayan, gusto ng Gen Z yan based sa study sa LinkedIn, di ba? And number 3, having a rival that inspires you. So yan, meron na tayong wealth givers, di ba? So sila na yung rival natin that inspires us. Number 4, existential flex. Ibig sabihin ng yan, the identity of the organization has to be adaptable. We have to be able to adapt from who we are to who we want to be. That will serve the current marketplace, di ba? So, being able to adapt. Unlike yung mga Kodak, Nokia, Blockbuster, they were not able to adapt. They were not able to change who they were because they were so focused on maintaining the status quo. And number 5, the courage to lead. And maybe this is all about helping the people in our care, helping our leaders, our soon-to-be leaders, build their own courage that they will lead. Diba? So, yun yung 5 steps, no? Para lang meron kayong notes and that you can, we can use it as an organization. So, in a moment, I'm going to be sharing the ideas on how do we now shift from traditional to growth, right? Kasi in essence itong infinite game is basically shifting our mindset from results organization to a growth organization, right? Results organization to a growth organization. Nung una, sobrang attached sa results. Kailangan ito yung makuhang results. But now, Infinite Game is telling us we have to be attached to growth. The growth of the organization, the growth of the people. Are you with me? And so, let me share this photo, no? The idea is we will actually shift into learning organization. Okay? Learning organization. Ano ba ang learning organization? It is a growth-centered organization. Ito yung definition by Harvard Business Review. A learning organization is an organization skilled at creating, acquiring, and transferring knowledge and at modifying its behavior to reflect new knowledge and insights. This definition begins with one simple truth. New ideas are essential if learning is to take place. If we become a learning organization, we become a growth organization because we're now more open to ideas that will help us grow and create better results, right? So ito yung itsura niya in terms of the org chart, right? In the traditional command and reporting siya, very hierarchical. And there is very little to no collaboration. But in learning organization, ito yung leader, yung nasa baba. Bumaliktad yung triangle. Kumbaga, the leader is just the one who sets the vision and sets the issues and the values, no? And people are actually collaborating, working together. This is what a trusting team looks like, right? And the skills and solutions will not come from the leader, but actually the people themselves. Yan ang learning organization. And that is the shift that we see happening when we shift into infinite game. Right? Infinite game is basically learning organization, right? And ang mangyayari dito is the results may not happen right away, right? And so there is this framework that shows us what to expect, okay? What to expect during the starting period of shifting into a learning organization. So allow me to share this one. It's called incremental versus exponential thinking when growing a business, okay? So if you notice, ang incremental thinking, yes, it creates results over time on this gray line, right? However, this is where people experience burnout, hindi ganun ka-inspired, and so very short-term results, hindi siya sustainable. Hindi siya infinite game. However, this one, exponential thinking, okay, this is growth organization, infinite game, baka sa una wala pang masyadong results. That's reality, right? Because meron pang shift building pa lang eh. But pag umabot yung critical mass, sabog yan, paakyat. And that's where exponential organizations thrive, no? In the latter part. Think of Tesla, for example. Tesla is bigger than the entire industry of automobiles. Than Honda, Toyota, and all of these other cars combined, ha? Mas malaki si Tesla. And that's because they have exponential thinking. But hindi naman sila ganun right away. Nung una, mabagal sila, right? Until sumabog na lang later on. The thing is, people get impatient for results in this lag area. Okay? So these are the different phases of growing a business. Launch, build, and finally grow. So I feel like right now, as we are shifting into this exponential thinking as an organization, we are actually starting the build pa lang. Okay? But trust the process. Again, it's not to win the game, but to stay in the game as long as possible. Darating ang results later on.
Zach, if I may, Zach.
Yes, go ahead.
I really like this framework. Unang-una sabi ko nga, we have to understand na merong ganito, na merong ganitong lag. Kasi if we don't know that this is what's happening, that is exponential thinking, people drop out. That's why we drop out. We give up on we quit on the business, on the goal, and even on leadership. Diba? For example, the transition from personal producer to leadership. building a team. Ganito rin talaga yung income mo. Yun ang reality. No? Talagang babagsak siya while you're building a team. Kasi you're spending your time instead of selling to building teams. So magkakaroon siya talaga ng dip. And if we don't understand that the result will be eventually exponential. In this time na dapat paangat ka na bigla kang bibitaw. Ganon. So with Starbright, we will also undergo this. In fact, we're already undergoing that, diba? Na from Miss A's tenure, medyo bumagsak tayo ng konti. Hindi naman sobra. No, but this is what's happening. Diba? But with the shift that is happening and we're doing, we are expecting the exponential results from all teams. So walang iwanan dito, hindi pwedeng ako lang, direct ko lang, di ba? Hindi ganun eh. All units will undergo this, a transformation process. And I want the leaders to have the exponential thinking. Now, all leaders should have the exponential thinking to weather the storm. No, you got to
weather the volatility.
Oh, the volatility. Ayan, parang equities.
There's no storm there.
Yeah.
It's just a volatility.
Tama, ayun. So, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, and that's basically the mindset that we want to adopt, no? As we make the shift into the infinite game mindset, into exponential thinking, into learning organization. We have to understand the reality that yes, there will be a dip, but we have to trust the process. Because again, we're not in this to win. We're in this to stay as long as possible. We're in this to create massive impact in the lives of many people, diba? At the end of the day, that's what we do as leaders, as financial advisors. We help people create better income for themselves and their families. We protect their families through our financial programs, right? And we help people build skills. And that is the fulfillment in the role that we have as leaders. No? So allow me to just answer yung kaninang question ni Argel. Yung how do we incentivize or reward someone with an infinite program? So the idea here is reward based on result. Kumbaga, pag nakakuha sila lang ng result, tsaka mo sila i-reward, they will not expect it, kumbaga. I'll give you an example of what that means. Hindi natin sasabihin na pag nag-MDRT ka, we will give you this incentive. So hindi nila hinahabol yung incentive, right? Hindi natin sasabihin na may reward sila or incentive, but pag nakuha nila yung MDRT, kunyari as a result of their growth, because you were MDRT, because of your growth, punta tayo, shopping tayo. What do you want to buy? I'll go with you. So doon, appreciate ka rather than expect yung mga tao, right? It's a mindset in rewarding based on behavior, okay, and not using it as a shiny thing.
Claro.
Right? Does that make sense, Argel? Yun lang yung thoughts ko on that. I actually want to hear also the thoughts of the leaders on that. What do you think about that concept? Na rewarding based on pag after nilang makuha yung result, tsaka pa lang nila malalaman na may parang additional reward sila aside from the expected.
May niraise na concern si Ms. Nina, no, that there are some agents, advisors that are comparing because they look around other agencies, bakit may gantong incentive or etc. Diba? But ako, ang sagot ko naman doon is we just have to be firm with our process. We have to trust the process. Kasi diba, we know, that's why we are sticking together as leadership team. Mag-uusap-usap tayo. Diba? Na we understand that this is our process. Na hindi tayo pwedeng bumigay sa kanila just because one or two advisors says na mas gusto ko mas malaking reward. Bakit yung ibang agency may malaking reward ganun? When we are solid with one another, pareho tayo, we're in the same page. Diba? So at least we're also moving towards one direction na ito yung pacing namin eh. Pero pag ginawa mo yan, bigyan kita ng reward.
Kasi sa akin yan, para hindi kasi para sa akin hindi nagiging issue. Yan ito ang mindset eh. Saan ka ba excited? Halimbawa sa pag-MDR. Sa pag-MDR ito sa reward. ang sa akin, kung ang buy-in mo doon sa pagiging MDRT is very strong, kahit di mo na ako bigyan ng reward, yun na nga kasi gusto ko eh.
Bonus lang yan.
Di ba? So hindi dapat na nagiging issue yun. So doon sa gagawin is going to be standard. Para hindi. Yung anong anik-anik sa gilid, wala na, it should not be the factor.
Tama. At saka, lastly na lang in terms of this reward. Again, lagi nyo tatandaan na not everyone are driven by the reward.
Correct.
Di ba mayroong 6 na motivational na factors to push people. And rewards only, actually yung reward na yan, ang nagbe-benefit lang din dyan are really the top people. Di ba? Yung mga in the middle or yung sa baba, lalo na, hindi yun eh. Hindi yun ang solution, iba ang solution. So, we should not, kumbaga, maraming ibang way na tayo pwedeng gawing programs.
Kasi pag pinatulan natin yan, infinite din yan.
Oo, infinite din yan.
Binigay mo yung daliri mo kung kamay ang
Oo, ang ganda nun ha, tama. Oo, tama yun.
Ay, pwede pumatol sa ganyan.
Tama yun.
We have to, be firm, tama sinasabi.
Tapos pag ikaw na yung naubusan, wala ka na mabigay, lilipat din siya. Ganon din, di ba? So, we have to be firm with what we understand because again,
and manage well doon sa kanilang expectations.
Tama.
For all you know, ang gusto lang pala ng tao, hindi pa nakaka-ride dyan sa Skyway ng bago. Ipasyal mo na sa Skyway, masaya na. Ano ba kayo?
Sige bro, thank you. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, great. And yeah, that's basically, actually yung kung ano yung sinabi ni Sir Rel, yun yung dapat yung sasabihin ko, diba? They will always expect it pag doon tayo nag-base. And I had the opportunity to observe some other agencies in other companies, Sun Life, mga ganyan, na yun talaga yung main driver nila is rewards and incentives, and napapagod yung manager. Kumbaga, kasi the reason why they work is for the incentives lang. Is there no deeper meaning is the question, diba?
Yeah.
So,
and the company gives it eh. Alam mo yun, this is what already the company gives. Ang ganda na ng reward system. Diba? Yeah. So, we have to provide what the company doesn't provide. That's how we can work together with AIA instead of being, alam mo yun, misaligned with them. Ganon. So, ako yun yung, katulad nito, leaders training. Walang regular na ganito. So, this is what we need, not converting the organization in terms of that bigger, ayun nga, Starbright 2.0. Yun.
Agree. And last one that I want to mention, in terms of alignment to the company's direction, sinasabi ng mentor ko, respect the Great Wall of China, build your own Shanghai. Okay, so we respect the direction of where AIA is headed. Return of the King, sure, respect natin yan. We're not gonna go against it. We're gonna respect it. However, we're here building our own new super city, kumbaga, right? While we respect the Great Wall. Great Wall of China is basically, hundreds of years respected, right? But Shanghai is the new city na parang hustling and bustling na sobrang attracts many people all over the world now. So as we build this new organization, we respect the Great Wall of China. We're building our Shanghai, kumbaga. So yun lang. I wanted to end with that in terms of the second video and some.
Thank you, Zach. Actually, I like the metaphor of city kasi come to think of it, hindi lang naman isa yung best city eh. Maraming magagandang cities. And then each has its own culture and just cause that people get attracted to that. So, and in your own unit, in your own little team, you gotta build your own city. You gotta also have that just cause that people will gravitate to that, and then magiging susunod talaga sila sa'yo. Kulto nga talaga. Tama talaga yung term na kulto eh. Kailangan mo mag-create ng kulto na naniniwala sa paniniwala mo, susunod sila. Yun yung infinite game eh. Just cause, trusting teams. Diba? Yun yung first 2 steps eh. And then, yun nga, diba? Step 3, having a worthy rival. So like, kunyari si Karine, nakita niya si Neil mataas, nakita niya si Miss Jean mataas. It's not competition eh. It's worthy rival. So instead of being stressed and pressured, be inspired. No, so I think that gano'n yung nangyayari sa atin. Like with Wealth Giver, I'm not really pressured. Alam ko namang, di ba, I know what I'm doing. Right? And I'm inspired with them. And kanina nga lang, nagkausap kami, it's a great conversation, di ba? So yun. And then, number 4, Ang pinaka-important dito is the fourth step actually. Aside from step 1, fourth step, having that existential flex. Meaning being able to adapt, be willing actually. Be willing to adapt and look at having a growth mindset. Ganon, hindi yung finite mindset na. And then of course, yung number 5, important din, having the courage to lead. Na even though people may judge you, di ba, may reject you, etc., you should be able to have that courage to lead. So let's go to the last video. So the last video, this is just a short video. And here we are talking about why people get depressed when they don't play an infinite game, even when they hit a goal. So go ahead, Zach, and share the video.
I've become very, very interested in the idea of playing in games that have no finish lines. Right? Some games have finish lines, right? Baseball, football, right? Getting a part is a finish line. You audition, there's a beginning, middle, and end. There's rehearsal and practice. There's showing up for the audition, and you either win or you lose, and then it's over. It's over, right? That is finite. But one's career is infinite. There's no end. It's like our lives are finite, but life is infinite. People come and people go, but life continues, right? Theater, actors come and actors go, but theater continues. It's infinite. You don't win theater. You win a part, but what happens once you get the part? The finite game is over. Now you enter the infinite game. You have to be able to convert, right? And the reason this is important, and I've seen this unfortunately so many times, from a young age, all you wanted to do was get to Broadway. And then you get to Broadway. And then what? You've devoted your entire life to one finite goal, and when you get there, the immediate response is depression. Because I spent 15 years of my life for this one thing, and I got it. And now I don't know what to do next. Like, get to Broadway again. Doesn't have the same ambition. It doesn't have the same passion. You know, that you've devoted you're from Fargo, North Dakota, and that's all you wanted to do was get out of Fargo and make it to Broadway, and you made it, right? It doesn't have the same kind of passion. And this is because these are finite goals. There's a lot of studies that have been done with athletes who have finite goals to become the greatest X in the world, right? So Andre Agassi was one of these athletes. He wanted to become the greatest tennis player that ever lived. Guess what? Everyone in his life, he would view them through, how do you help me get to that? Everything was, how does this help me get to that? Everything was a transaction to how do you help me move to there? And then you know what happens? He achieved it. He became the greatest tennis player in the world. And you know what happened immediately after? Depression. Michael Phelps set out to become the most medaled Olympian in history. Do you know what? He achieved it. You know what happened immediately after? Depression. They spend their whole life working for one goal. Though most will never get it, the few that do don't know what to do next because their goals were finite. Their goals were finite. Right? And so there are finite components to your career. But your career should be infinite. So yes, of course you have to win the finite game. You have to get the part. But immediately when you get the part, now you convert to infinite.
Thank you, Zach. So that's just a short video, very quick video of understanding that if you just play the finite game, you get depressed sometimes after. No? You crash and burn. Pag na-hit mo na yung goal mo, parang what's next, di ba? Nakakatawa nga yung example yun sa you get to Broadway again. Di ba? Parang wala nang ibang, hindi na eh. Yun. So, kayo, no, what did you get about that sharing? Ano yung realizations ninyo? We'll not be sending you into breakout room. Siguro Argel, I want to hear from Argel kasi si Argel hindi ko pa natawag. Yun. So, go ahead, Arjel. Hindi lang dito sa video na to, but probably as a whole, what do you want to say?
Ayun, iniisip ko pa rin nga yung yung how to support and promote yung growth mindset. Diba? Yung parang magkaroon ng kumbaga general direction yung mga tao na yun yung trajectory dapat ng lahat. Diba? So, yun lang yung parang pampalikot ng isip na naisip ko parang paano ba minime? Kanina nag-attend ako sa LinkedIn Forward yun. Nag-uusap sila about the future of work, etc. Ganun din parang ano ba yung mga skills daw dapat na important. Tapos parang tinatanong ko rin sa sarili ko, ano mini-measure? Paano man na-measure na empathic yung isang tao? Kasi yung mga sinabi niya, empathy, self-care, tapos coaching. Parang ganun yung top 3 sa kanya. Sa head ng HR na Unilever Latin America. Tapos, sinisip ko sa sarili ko, paano na may measure yung mga soft skills? Diba? Parang ang hirap i-quantify or lagyan ng grade, kumbaga. Diba? Kung gaano ka-empathic, for example. Maybe hindi ko lang alam yung mga tools to measure. Pero yun yung mga naglalaro sa isip ko. Yun, and yun nga, yung ngayon, how to measure or promote having that growth mindset and ano yung mga tangible evidence, di ba, for us leaders to know, okay, itong advisor kong to may growth mindset or na-adapt na niya yung iniisip natin being in an infinite game. So, yun.
Parang may sagot ako dyan. Thank you for that kasi pampalikot nga ng isip. I think it starts with like, you cannot measure in numbers, but you can measure in activities. Diba? So, ibig sabihin, what do you do? Or what will we do para ma-foster yung ganong culture? Like, what will I do to show I'm empathic? Diba? Ganon eh. So, it's really listening. And diba? Yun, kaya nga I think related siya sa coaching. Giving time to people, listening to them so that I understand where they're coming from on a regular basis. Ganon. So in terms of the growth mindset naman, ito talaga yung vision with Starbright that we meet on a regular basis to talk about these things. Because the topics that we can learn are infinite. Diba? So, I mean, kaya nabuhay yung WPC. In fact, this is the 2022 version of WPC. Itong leadership training natin. That we just need to start with the core. We cannot start from outside. Like people are not, the leaders are not there. And then we want the people to change or have and adopt the growth mindset when the leaders don't have the growth mindset because they don't want to spend time growing themselves. Because they're thinking, okay na ako, I've arrived. Diba? Hindi ganun eh. So we are thinking like that. So I think that's, for me to check, to measure if you have a growth mindset, you're here every Wednesday. Or every other Wednesday. Diba? Ganun eh. You want to learn. Like, I didn't even make this every week. Para mawala na yung reason na hindi ko pa na-execute yung first, di ba? Parang hindi ko pa na-absorb. Meron na namang bago. So I also understand that concern. So every other week, how about every other week, di ba? How about every other week you give time for yourself to grow and not think about other people, not think about your clients, not think about your advisors. Because when you serve yourself and you grow yourself, you definitely can serve other people better. Diba? Kasi sometimes we are just there to take action. We're busy. But in reality, the impact is so little because we're not growing. But like when we grow ourselves and spend our time investing in ourselves, now when we talk to our people, kahit minsan lang, when we talk to our clients, ang laki ng impact. So the VIP clients will buy and listen from you. Diba? When you shoot a video, people will naturally gravitate to you because you say something that most people don't say. Ganon. When you talk and coach your advisors, your recruits, they want to be with you and they feel good because you gave time to them, because you made a great impact. I think yun yung that we owe this to them. Yun nga yung sinasabi ko. So siguro yun, Argel, the people with growth mindset love growing. That it's a good enough reason, good enough reward. No, it's a good enough reward to be recognized and to grow, to be thought ng leader niya kasi nag-grow siya. So the people who will always show up because they like this is actually being rewarded already. Remember the times when we are attending meetings every week, diba? And we're just there for free on a regular basis. Why are we there? Because we're growing. Because we're liking ourselves more as a person, not just as an entrepreneur. And because of that, that's a good enough reward for me to stay in this team. Nawala yun for so long. I myself, parang I wasn't prepared to think of myself that I can grow people. Kaya nawala yun. But this year, I'm committing. So I'm calling you to be with me in this journey, so that when we grow together, the people with us will grow with us as well. Ganun yung mangyayari. Right? So 2 needs of spirit, yes, the need to grow and the need to contribute, according to Tony Robbins. Right? If we can fulfill those 2 needs for our people, they will want to stay. Diba? Tama yun eh. So constant growth, and because I'm growing and overflowing, now they can make their own YouTube channel. Now they can give quality content in TikTok. Now they can close more sales. Now they can recruit more people just because of what they're saying. They can build their own brand. And ako, over the years, that's what I missed. Right? That me as a leader, I'm not growing my team enough. Naalala ko no 2019, bro, di ba? Nag-meet na tayo every week ng DNA leaders. Di ba? That's where we grow. And ang saya nun eh. Nagsimula tayong 4, then eventually, nagdagdagan. Of course, it was just put into a halt by certain factors, and then nag-pandemic. Di ba? But that 2019 has been a good start na rin, di ba? Nagkaroon tayo ng planning ng January or December 2020. 2020 yun, gano'n. So, lumalaki na yung leadership team noong time na yun eh. We will go back to that just because we started tayong core leaders to grow together, and when we like ourselves more, ito yung key guys ha, when we like ourselves more, then we will invite people in the circle. Because I feel you, sometimes there are fear na maybe hindi ko mag-guide yung tao ko. No, kasi ako nga mismo hindi nag-grow pa eh. So let's grow together. Ako, it's good enough reason, good enough reward for people to stay. Ayun. So, ikaw Red, what can you say about the video or about the as a whole?
Watching the video kasi and thinking mga nasa thoughts ko is how to reconcile this new, or even new, this concept, this mindset with the existing advisors. Maganda siya i-implement sana with the new set of advisors. So, nakikita ko tuloy yung importance of recruitment. Kanina na-mention ni DJ that there will be a purging din talaga, especially when all of us implement the infinite game with Starbright. Also na-notice ko na naman, Starbright's mission, for example, is an infinite game. Because when does helping Filipinos achieve their financial goals stop?
Yeah.
It doesn't. So that's also what I'm glad about. Yung vision siguro na 100 vision-driven millionaires, yun naman.
Finite.
Kasi we're looking for 100. Also, naisip ko rin kanina while nag-share si Argel, yung wala sa isip ko. Yung sa every one of us kasi will also have a different idea of what Return of the King is. Naalala ko nga yung one time na kinausap ako ni Miss A. Kasi sabi niya sa akin, nahihirapan ako sa'yo kasi parang hindi ka motivated by money. So, sabi nga, hindi ba importante sa'yo yung pera? So, importante naman po. Pero doon ko din na-realize na another question that I could be asking, whether it's because of what's Return of the King for me, or what's money for me, for example, is what can it do for me, or what thing could it change? Kumbaga, what is Return of the King? Maybe for those playing an Infinite game, Return of the King is just getting number 1 sa IC rankings. But maybe there could be, for some, it's Return of the King means I would have been able to save this much people. Return of the King might mean na para, I have earned this much income. I could have built a house for my family. I could have sent this much. I could send my children to school. So babalik din talaga dun sa why na most of the people joining din naman that agency, which is they want a better life for their families. They want a better life for themselves. So inisip ko na lang, how can I translate that in the recruitment conversation? Baka kasi masyado na ako nag-focus din sa pasok ka dito kasi it's going to give you good income. Pero nakalimutan ko na tanong, what would it mean for you if you receive this income? So, if I get to find that out, then yung just cause natin, for me, my just cause will then be being a financial advisor, being in Starbright is going to give a better future also for your family, or will help you achieve kung ano din yung just cause.
Thank you, Red. Palaparan natin ang lahat for those sharing. So tama si Red doon na yung yung Return of the, ako nga sabi ko nga yung sinasabi nga ni Zach na it's a great wall and hindi natin dapat isipin na porke ganito yung plano ni company, ano na siya sa atin, parang baka magbangga or mag-misalign. Diba? Kasi first and foremost, we're talking about Starbright as an organization. We're not talking about AIA. Diba? Si AIA is nandiyan dyan, but like, if AIA doesn't change, you cannot get the results, or we cannot get the results that we want. Hindi naman Diba? So we should not resist on what the programs that we have. What we need to do is just, yun nga, nangyayari kasi competitor Ang tingin natin kay AIA ngayon, competitor instead of rival, di ba? Parang gano'n, di ba? Dapat ma-inspire tayo kung ano yung meron. Kahit business partner, kesa sa parang nagiging obstacle pa siya. We have to remove that mentality na obstacle si AIA. We got to think of way na iba yung cost niya Understood naman talaga na, normal lang yun na they have to win the shareholders' hearts. Diba? Kasi negosyo siya Or iba tayo. We don't need to act the same way. No, yun So we cannot use that as an excuse or as a reason for us not being successful. I think yun yung maganda. So, and actually for me, the Return of the King is also emotional naman Who doesn't want their companies to be number 1, di ba? So tutulong tayo doon. Sa akin wala namang problema doon Pero dapat lang maintindihan natin that we are in the infinite game, even if that doesn't happen yet. Di ba? It's just fine. Hindi naman nga siya this year lang. Di ba? Hindi mo naman dapat i-define kung kailan yan. Ganon. So the goal is for us to live an infinite life, infinite game, para mas maging smooth. Mawala nga dun sa stress and anxiety where we started earlier. No? Na kesa nasa state of flow ka, bumababa ka sa state of stress and anxiety just because you're not getting the results that you want yet. No, sabi ni Argel, hindi rin naman siguro abot ng 100 plus years sa AIA. Kung finite sila mag-isip. Tama naman. Yun nga yun. Oo. Di ba?
Kasi, wala. 60, 70 plus lang na pala ang ilang. Ang ganda kasi nung una eh.
Yeah, I really like that.
A film life policy in every Filipino.
Yeah. Every Filipino family. No? Yeah. So, yun kasi talaga infinite yun. Halos hindi mo siya matapos eh. Di ba? And that's how vision should be actually. No? So, that's why Starbright 2.0 will be transitioning Starbright into having that MTP, that massive transformative purpose, that the vision, 100 mission-driven millionaires, now becomes a milestone. Right? Becomes a checkpoint that we reach just because we're going further from that. Di ba kasi pag ito lang ang vision mo or ito yung goal mo, usually you don't hit that. You hit lower than that. So why not, para ma-hit natin yung 100 mission-driven millionaires, which we all like, we will go beyond that. So moving forward in the future discussions, coming probably half of the year, we'll be having a session in terms of, we will revisit, we will not change our mission vision because it's already good, but we will craft a bigger purpose so that people will just gravitate to that purpose. And then we'll join our team just because of that purpose. So that's where we want to go. And we're slowly getting there. Yeah, huwag kayong magpa-pressure about that. Mag-iisip ako ng bagong hashtag probably. Right? So, but yeah, we will get there. Right? Being number one is not bad. Striving to be the best is not bad. I just want you to understand, and unti-unti, ganun na yung nangyayari, that we have an infinite goal, an infinite game. We have an infinite mindset. Right? In fact, when we talk to everyone naman, that's what we do. No? We invite, we invite different speakers. We don't really want to beat them. We know that they are our rivals. So I think we're all the same in terms of that. Hindi natin dapat kailangang isipin yun. So really, the next step for us is really to have a just cause as an organization so that people will start to trust one another. Kasi nga ngayon, kunyari, if me outside looking in, if I'm a newbie, ano naman sa akin kung number one si Starbright? Di ba? Wala naman eh. I mean, for some people, they like it. No? Especially the top kasi they're fighting for it. Pero for the newbie na may bentang isa in a month, what's in it for me na number one si Starbright? Hindi yun eh. Hindi yun ang just cause for me. Di ba? It should just happen as a result of the just cause. Ganon. Sobra siyang finite eh. So we have to craft that just cause so that the trust in the organization will increase because they will feel that all the activities are done for them and for the cause, not for just being number one. Right? We have a rival already. Marami naman sa agency natin yan, even outside the industry or outside the company, di ba? Nakakatuwa sila Jonas Go ng Alexandrite, sila Sequoia ng Sun Life, di ba? This people na sobrang laki, it's really inspiring. Those are rivals for me. No, na bakit ang number one ng AIA, kunyari si Starbright, parang ang liit pa rin compared sa others, di ba? So it's something that's really inspiring. So after the just cause, really we should just be willing and open to do that. And that's what we're doing sa ating mga leaders, to have that existential flex, to be able to adapt to this changing world. And then lastly, the courage to lead. The courage that even though probably people will reject you, probably people will reject your idea, not you. Diba? Even ako, diba? Parang it will take me a while, or it took me a while to invite all the leaders na, uy, mag-twice a month meeting na tayo. Aside from the leaders meeting on Thursday, mag-twice a month learning session na tayo. It takes courage to lead. For me, that's number 5, the 5th step. Now you understand all these things. You need the courage. We all need the courage to lead, to invite people to ride the bus. Kasi nga, di ba, we have a bus eh. Papunta tayo dito, Starbright 2.0, an infinite organization. Pero kailangan kang magyaya eh. Tara ka rin, sakay ka na. Tara Ronald, sakay ka na. Dito tayo pupunta. And para sumakay sila sa bus, we need to have a clear vision. Ano yung placard mo? Baguio ba yan? Vegan ba yan? Saan ka pupunta? Dapat clear yung placard. So that's the first step. So in the coming sessions that we'll be doing, we will really be having activities para ma-clarify ano yung cost mo. Now, in your own little way, Team Maverick, True North, Verge, Altair, Phoenix ba si Alpha, ano bang name ng sayo Ronald, 'di ba, the Warriors, DNA Heroes, si Navigators, start to clarify the story, that purpose, that just cause for your own small organization. You got to have that as well para your people will fight for you and with you, and invite more people to your mansion. Yung pa rin yun. So that's it for me. Zach, anything that you would want to say?
I just want to say thank you to the leaders for being so open to these ideas. I know that it's not the usual, not the normal. Kaya nga Team Maverick yung team ko.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy that you guys stayed open to this because I really feel like this is the future of organizations, the future of leadership, to be sustainable. And I want Starbright to be sustainable. This is where I grew up. This is where I met people that I know now and why I am who I am. So I am very, very invested in the success of Starbright. So yeah.
Thank you, Zach. I would like to personally thank you, Zach, for helping me in terms of this this project, diba, that us bringing to Starbright 2.0, and to all the leaders who are here today. Thank you for being open. I know that a lot of the concepts and principles that we are sharing now are really disruptive already and are changing the status quo. But again, if you want to go to achieve the theme that you visualized earlier when we started, to that Starbright 2.0, to that Maverick 2.0, Verge 2.0, Navigator 2.0, Warriors 2.0, Altair 2.0, nagbago na nga sila ng pangalan, which is good. Diba? Sa True North 2.0, right? DFA 2.0, sa LFS 2.0, diba? Armor, nagbago na rin sila ng pangalan. Tignan mo naman, ang taas ng benta nila this month, diba? Because that's the Team Morales 2.0, North Star 2.0. For us to get there, right? DJ 1.0 is not going to take you there, right? I need to be DJ 2.0. Zach needs to be Zach 2.0. You need to be your own version 2.0. Right? There needs to be transformation, and it starts in our mind. So with that, guys, thank you very much for your time today. Let's take a picture and see you in the next session.